Well, hi everybody. Todd Nash, Oregon Cattlemen's president. I'm here today with Rawley Bigsby, and we wanted to talk about what it's like to be a rancher and some of the complexities that take place back on the ranch. We've talked in recent weeks about marketing, the hay market, uh, the beef market, the cattle market, and Raleigh's been involved in all those things as a rancher, and that's what you do. But Raleigh, I want you to introduce yourself and what you do here, and just a little bit about yourself and your operation.
Yeah, again, I'm Rawley Bigsby. I've been in the cow business now, going on my sixth year. I graduated from Oregon State University about 20 years ago and have been working in lots of different sectors of the industry to get to the point where I could start my own cow herd and get to be a full-time rancher. Uh, my wife Kelly and I, we run about 300 head of cows here in Wallowa County and put up hay on 300 irrigated acres. That doesn't leave a whole lot of time for breathing or downtime to just go enjoy life, go on a vacation or anything. When you're out of one frying pan and into another, we calve cows from March until May, and then get turned out in the springtime and brand and jump into the haying season. And when that's over, we're gathering cattle and weaning and feeding cows all winter. So it's a full time job up here, just with with what we have to do.
Well, Raleigh, I appreciate that. Not being a multi-generational rancher, and we hear that a lot. Those that have been successful have been in it for a long time. The bulk of their properties are paid for, and they're not having to lease a lot of ground. And anyway, describe some of the challenges that come with being a first-generation rancher.
This day and age, it's a it's tough to get your feet wet, so to speak, in the business. Um, uh, Custom hay business, about 10 years ago now, and had some success with that. Um, More of a customer service for a lot of the horse industry is what it came down to. I was buying a lot of hay out of this country and sending it to outlying areas and provided a service of delivery for it. And that business allowed me to make contacts with folks in the industry up here. And there was a couple of fellows that were retiring and getting out, and we struck up a deal to where I could lease a ranch from them and buy their livestock and equipment for hay. And um, it, I feel very fortunate in that because those opportunities just don't come along in this industry, and there are a lot of struggles that come with that. You don't have the heavy accounts filled full of money that you may have if you're generational. And I'm not saying they have heavy accounts, but you're everything you're doing is working with a bank. You're at the mercy of interest rates, market fluctuations. The one thing that the way I've structured it, I've somewhat diversified and raising our own hay and livestock too. I kind of have two different incomes there to keep the business sustainable. But it's a very difficult time, with $6 fuel, and start talking about fertilizer prices and all your inputs. And fortunately, we're seeing a little better calf prices this year, and hay values are up at the moment. It it can you feel like you're on a teeter totter all the time, whether you're going to make it from one year to the next, and that you start throwing in some of the other elements that we deal with wolves and weather conditions and drought. It's a struggle. There's no question about it. You squeak by some years, and some years you don't.
I think you captured a lot of those struggles very well. Some of the other opportunities we see out there, though, are we see these vacant grazing allotments that are on the Forest Service and sometimes the BLM. And to be able to have opportunity to access some of those, especially for winter feed, what would that mean to your operation?
Oh, it would be tremendous. I off the top of my head, I'm not exact on what the numbers are here in Wallowa County as far as vacant allotments are, but so we're fortunate here to have wintertime allotments in the lower elevations of the Imnaha and Snake River Basin, and seeing so many of them closed with young ranchers, especially. There's a handful of us up here that could cut our costs tremendously. I'm talking $100,000 a year in winter feed costs, and the opportunity to be able to sell more of my hay that we put up, that would be phenomenal to our bottom line. The it's sad to watch all those resources go to waste, and they're a renewable resource on an annual basis, and whether they get burned up in fire or they just deteriorate and go back into the soil, it's unfortunate to see that happening when we could be putting them to good use and helping our local economy and the sustainability of the livestock industry for the world.
Yeah. So one thing that I've been thinking about recently, and as a cow calf producer, you only have so many units that you're working with there, but the industry itself, whether you're in the processing side, whether you're in the supplemental feed side, any number of things, the retail side, you get your hands on a lot of product, and those packing facilities, for instance, some of them operating with multiple thousands of head, but you have 300 head to work with. And in order for you to make that as efficient as possible and to capture dollars off of that 300 head, that's a pretty tough challenge, isn't it?
It is. There's not a lot of room for error. My first year on the ranch that I leased that has the farm with it, we dove into that right at calving season and had a bunch of new cattle that I wasn't privy to and didn't know a lot of their background. And we unfortunately had a real bad weather spell that year that left for a lot of disease with the calves, and we lost about 10% of our calf crop to disease that year, and that put me behind, and I stayed that way for a couple of years. You don't have margin for mistake when you're at this level. It can make you or break you really quick, especially as tight as the markets are on the cow calf level. We're not seeing the dollars we should be seeing as a producer. I think we all know that the packing industry gets their fair share of the marketplace, and when you're in the cow calf side of it, up until this year we're seeing a little better pricing. We're getting a little more for our calves. I think that there's still due territory for us to be able to grasp there.
Yeah, so you talked about input costs a little bit, and this year with hay in particular, even though you're putting up your own hay, there's still opportunity costs there.
Yep.
And so you're putting $300 hay through your cows. How challenging is that? And at what point do you just say, well, I'll just become a hay producer and quit the cows completely?
Absolutely. It's not often we see these prices get to this level in the hay industry. We're actually seeing a decline in them as we speak, but if you sit down and do the pencil work on the amount of hay I feed through those cows over a 5.5 to 6 month period here in Wallowa County, we're at $300 on 700 tons. That's a heck of a lot of money that you're pouring into those livestock, and at some point you have to put a pencil to it and figure out if you'd be better off selling that hay for $250 feeder ton price and selling your cows and running yearlings and just putting up hay. The volatility in today's marketplace plays a role in why I haven't gone there yet. We're seeing Japan right now is backed off of their demand for a lot of the hay, and they're only going to pay so much money, which is bringing the price on this hay market back down here locally. And so, the swings can be so violent in that hay industry and the livestock for that matter. I think consistency is going to be the key to my game. I don't want to get out of the cow business and run yearlings, but if that's where the money's at, that's where a guy has to lean to stay thriving in the business.
Yeah, and at some point somebody has to produce that product.
Yep.
Somebody has to cook that hamburger in a restaurant. Somebody has to do that somewhere. And those raw products there, we rely on that. And this country relies on producers like yourself for food security. And we can't afford to lose that production. We just can't. We're at risk, and we've seen that we're at risk when we concentrate those large numbers in places, whether it be processing, whether it be ranches or hog facilities. When you concentrate those large numbers, they become vulnerable. And I think the cattle industry, the beef cattle industry in particular, really serves well the food security across our nation. Rawley, I want to finish up with a couple of things. You became involved at the county level and at the OCA level with committee work. Why is that important?
We need to have a voice. Our industry is made up of a lot of folks, not all that unlike myself, that are, we want to be left alone. We want to just go out and do our job and enjoy the life we get to live. But we're affected by the outside constantly, and it's only going to become more and more as time goes on. Water is going to be a bigger issue than it is right now. Our resource management is going to be a bigger issue, and I think getting involved is, and maybe I am or maybe I'm not the right guy for the job on some of these things, but if I can lend my knowledge base and my experience to areas that have an effect on everybody else, I'm going to try to do it. I unfortunately was one of the first ones in Oregon to have a wolf encounter and be able to kill a wolf legally within the boundaries that they've established for us to do so. And it, maybe that pushed me a little more towards my involvement in the wolf committee and having a voice. I can't say for sure if that's 100% why I want to get more involved and why I want to do what I do, but I think that as we get established, it's important that we do continue to have a voice, because a county level is a great place to start. I really truly believe that if you want to make change, it's got to start from the bottom and try to go to the top. Unfortunately, that top's a hard place to achieve, and maybe not the right place for all of us, but it's certainly a good thing to do for the future of our industry and our children's future someday.
Well, I couldn't agree more. I think these county associations are very underrated, but they're vitally important to the well-being of our industry. Well, Rawley, just a following thought, the average rancher farmer in the United States is right around 60 years of age. And I'm just approaching that and feel about 3/4 worn out and wouldn't want to start all over again. It's encouraging to see you take this on and be able to be a young rancher and aspire to pass that on to your young son, and your wife's actively involved. It's really a wonderful thing. What advice can you lend to young producers out there that may be thinking about doing the same?
Don't let all the adversity get to you, and work hard. I mean, if you've got a dream to someday do what folks in this industry get to do, and there's no glamour in it, there's no glory, but there's also never a day that I feel like I'm going to work. You get to do what you love, and just stick to your guns and work hard at it. There's always going to be challenges every day, but be patient and work hard.
Well, thanks, Rawley. Really appreciate you coming in. Really appreciate all your work that you do, not only for yourself, the industry, but your involvement with Oregon cattlemen and Wallowa County stock growers.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me, Todd.